Everyone, today I'm gonna share what I'm gonna start with POE 2, which is ED Contagious Acolyte of Chayula. With the full ascendancy reviewed, I think this ascendancy is really good for ED Contagious. And ED Contagious is what I played as the first build in POE 1, so I'm just gonna continue it in POE 2. Also, this is just an early idea. This is about me thinking about how I'm gonna spend my first 10-20 hours. Just did a little bit of planning so I don't have to read through everything in game. Of course, everything is subject to change. Without further ado, let's talk about the ascendancy nodes. I know people are talking about how Mana Leech is strong for this build, and people are thinking about going Mind over Mana or Archmage for this build. But since we are playing ED Contagious, I don't think this node is actually that strong. I think Node 5 and Node 6 are pretty strong. Waking Dream, which allow you to pick up flames, which gives you all sorts of buffs. The only unknown is that the wording for the purple flame here says 7% damage as chaos damage, not as extra chaos damage. And we know that GGG is always very specific with wording. So I'm thinking this might be conversion, which makes it actually not that good. But this is if this is actual chaos damage, then it's absurd. It's just too good to be true. Because with lucid dreaming, it doubles the effects, which is 14% extra chaos damage per flame, and the duration is 10 seconds. This is basically doubles your damage, just single node. Either way, I'm gonna try this. This is 2 nodes. And I know people are saying that Embrace Darkness and Grasp of the Void are not that good, but I don't think ED Contagious benefit too much from spirits. Actually, there is actually just one aura that could potentially benefit this skill. So I'm actually gonna try a node Embrace the Darkness, and I'm gonna try Grasp of the Void, which will give you, I think, 30-ish extra damage. And early on, I might just take Reality Rending, which is another damage node. So basically from this tree, we got a lot of damage, and Embrace Darkness could give us some defense. Yeah, this is Ascendancy. Another Ascendancy I considered is Blood Mage. But the only problem is that I think this Ascendancy clearly tells you that you're scaling life and then you're scaling crit. And ED Contagious, I don't think it will benefit from crit because it's damage over time. So that's why I think Acolyte of Chayula is gonna be the ascendancy I play. Let's talk about skills. So for Essence Drain, we're gonna support it with... Actually, I don't think added chaos damage is gonna work because it says support attacks. So let's remove this. Let's ignore this for now. We can support it as Swift Affliction. We're gonna support it with Controlled Destruction, which is already 75 more damage. And then we're gonna support it with Intense Agony, which is 50% more damage on full life. This is already more than 100% more modifier. And I'm thinking about supporting it with Chaotic Freeze. It doesn't do much just by itself. It says if the enemy is taking chaos damage over time from the supported skills, then the subsequent chaos damage hits from any source will build up freeze. This will pair really well with Dark Effigy, which is a totem that will attack enemy around it if they have chaos damage over time debuffs. So I think in boss fight, you will just Essence Drain and place your Dark Efficacy totem, and it will help you build up the freeze and freeze the boss. So for Contagious, I'm thinking about using Decaying Hacks. So Decaying Hacks is an interesting support where it allows you to inflict 10% of the intelligence as chaos damage per second for 8 seconds. For this support skill, it doesn't scale with the base damage of the skill. So it doesn't care. So here, for Contagious, it only deals 1.8 chaos damage. Maybe Essence Drain deals 100 chaos damage per second. But decaying hacks doesn't care. It only attached to your intelligence. So using this support on contagious really maximize our damage. And we're using area of effect here because if you're reading the last line of contagious, the infection radius is 1.7 meters. This is fairly small. Hopefully this scales with gem levels, but I think giving area, excuse me, giving area of effects really increase the improve the clear speed. And lastly, we use more duration because the base duration is only 5 seconds. We want it last a little bit longer. And yeah, let's talk about contagious a little bit more because in the middle of the description it says spell damage modifier also applies to debuff damage over time and increase damage by 100% for each debuff transmitted up to 300%. So this means for the enemy that we are contaging, we should ideally have 3 buffs on it. So Essence Drain is obviously going to be the first debuff, and Contagious itself, I think it will consider as the second. And because we're using Decaying Hacks, I think this will be considered as a third debuff. So basically what we are getting here is that the enemy that we Essence Drain will take 100% of the damage, but every enemy around it will take 300 increased damage because we have multiple debuffs on it. So this is basically the basis of this build. And for curse, we're gonna use Despire, which reduce the chaos resistance of the enemy. And we said for bossing, we're gonna use Dark Efficacy. And Profane Ritual is another chaos spell. I think this could be good, but you need a corpse to cast it in the first place. So this might be an optional skill to give you a little bit more damage. And I added Hex Blast here just to play around with it because we are building freezes, but we are not really doing anything with the freeze. And because Hex Blast is a spell, we can use Drain Elements, which will consume a random element, in this case will be freeze, and deal 35 more damage. And we can potentially support it with some other spell, I don't know, other spell gems to increase the damage a little bit more. So that this could be, you know, the finisher skill after the boss has freeze on it. We also need a trigger spell. I haven't figured out this part yet. I guess I'll do this in game. So we have, we are not creating, maybe we can do, oh, this requires spirit. Okay, then never mind. We don't need this at all. Let's talk about why we don't need spirit. Oh, we need to go here. Okay. So, I mean, obviously we don't care about like all elemental or mana because I don't think mana is going to be an issue for this setup. These two skills use only a little bit of mana and it's sort of because it spreads and the spreading doesn't cost you mana. So I think mana won't be an issue. This build also won't deal any poison damage. Poison, I think, is just going to be another archetype. Potentially, we can use Blasphemy. Blasphemy doesn't specify reservation for spirits. So I think this is going to be a free aura. And if that's the case, we can save the Deathspire and we can link it to Blasphemy. Depends on the area of the spell. And since we are not really shocking, ignite, or freezing, especially during mapping, I don't think this will be meaningful. The only thing that is interesting is Wizard. Yeah. So Wizard is essentially like a it's also like a curse, but it's not really a curse. It's like a debuff and enemy would take increased chaos damage if they are wizard. This is potentially needed, but on the skill tree we have this node. So it says, okay, it's on the left side. So it says on wizard enemy are wizard for 8 seconds if they enter your presence. I think this means you no longer need an aura to wizard your enemy. So if we take this node, we basically don't need any spirit at all, which allow us to use the Embrace the Darkness ascendancy. Let's talk about skill tree a little bit. So Monk will start here, right? To begin with, you have two paths. The first path is cast speed, attack damage, and another path is evasion, energy shield, and more evasion, energy shield. I'm thinking about taking the energy and the evasion rating pass to begin with. This might make a early game a little bit hard, mostly because early on you want to take every damage node you have access to. But this might save some respecking points later on. So either way, I'm gonna take energy shield, evasion rating, pass, and I'm gonna take this node. This node I think is basically adrenaline from POE 1, which is a really good ring for mapping. And yeah, I think I'm gonna go here. And here we have some spell damage, cast speed node, which I'm gonna take. Here we have the chaos damage. I think I'm gonna grab a lot of the small node here because I think they increase chaos damage. And then I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna go to this circle, which is an interesting node that gives you movement speed, chaos damage attribute, which is really good considering we are dealing 10% of the intelligence as decaying damage. And I think this whole circle will be somehow chaos related as well. And then we're gonna move here to take this node plus 1 level to all chaos skills. And we have a lot of chaos support gem. We also have chaos skill gem. And I also think this circle gave us chaos damage. And then we're gonna take the wizard circle. And I think later or earlier we're gonna move to the cast sorcerers area. We have chaos damage, skill effect duration. We also have chaos damage and global effects here. And I think there will be some node that just gives you spell damage, which is also pretty good for our build. For defenses, since we are basically Monk is intelligence and dexterity, which allow you to scale energy shield and evasion rating. That's basically what we're gonna do. I don't have a strong opinion on which way we're gonna go, but I think we're gonna stack up energy shield as our primary defense layer, and I'm also thinking about going to CI at the end of the days. Where's CI? Anyway, CI basically allows you to be immune to chaos damage and all that. And if super late game, I think mind over meta and some mana leech ascendancy could be good. But that's not, we don't have to worry about that too far, right? I think what we have described so far is gonna support me to basically level 60, 70 if everything goes well. But if this build doesn't work, I think I'm gonna hit the wall, and I guess I'll need to restart a new character.